So I think, as you mentioned, we have 3 main business pillars because we didn't bite off enough with, that doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, let me restart that.
Just leave it in. It's fine.
Okay, so we decided that we didn't already have enough to do with engineering and training. So we decided also to offer a suite of software products. Is that right, Dave?
That is right. I was told to focus when I started my business, and I thought that 3 things to focus on would be...
Just focus on everything.
Just focus on everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to explain what our software products are?
Yes. So we've got 2 buckets of software. So the first one is the SaaS suite, and that is like hopefully will become like a Swiss Army knife for process safety. Right now it's 3 separate products but bundled together under the SaaS suite. So one for building bow tie diagrams, which is like a visual representation of risk, looks like the gentleman's fashion accessory. One is for doing task analysis, so that's about using diagrams to understand the role of human error. And the last one is instant insight, which is about making it easy to investigate incidents. So that's the first one. And the second bucket, like every company on planet Earth, we're looking at some AI and some co-pilots. And we've got a couple of customers that we've built some co-pilots for. And what that is about, it's not about automating, it's not about using AI to do someone's job for them. It is about augmenting the role of people. So we've tried to aim for, can we have a higher quality, greater consistency in risk assessment, but do it in half the time. So that's the 2 software sort of bundles that we offer right now.
So can you talk about why you decided to start offering software? What was the gap you were trying to bridge and problems you were trying to identify by creating it?
Yeah, I think each product that we build, you can tie it back to like a personal frustration or personal problem that I've had. And if you take like instant insight, for example, in my previous role or roles, I've been a trained instant investigator, and I've had to investigate some quite serious incidents. But there's 2 that stand out where the actual damage that happened wasn't very much. Like nobody got killed or injured, but I would say that they, very nearly did. But because there was no actual harm, I think that the perception in the business was that these incidents weren't as big as they were. And in one particular case, I got tasked to do an incident investigation. But given what I just said, there wasn't enough time allocated, wasn't enough people allocated. I had to rush to get this report done. I don't think it got the scrutiny that it should have done. And a lot of the actions I'd said we have to get after this, this, and this were, I wouldn't say largely ignored, but weren't given the priority that I felt that they should have got. And lo and behold, we had the same incident again, only a few months later. And we ended up having 4 separate incidents, but ultimately the same underlying cause was the same. So with instant investigation, as humans, we are programmed to see the immediate cause of something. Why did that actually happen right then and there? Whose fault was it? Who's to blame? But often the underlying or the root cause of an incident is actually something totally different. And I then thought, well, what if we could investigate more incidents, do higher quality investigation, but in a lot less time? You could investigate more, you could learn more, and then hopefully have fewer incidents. So instant insight is all about very quickly building a timeline for the incident, uploading all your evidence, and then getting to the root cause. And then on a dashboard, you can like plot all of your incidents and see if there's any common threads across. So that's what that's about. And we launched that earlier this year. And again, it seems like there's quite a few people who have got that same frustration. So that seems to be resonating quite well.
And then in terms of how it's different from other incident investigation software, or how our other software products are different from other risk management software, is it kind of, what would you say?
Well, it's exactly like the training course. In the early days of that, I was like, all right, okay, we're going to have to add this. We're going to make it 2 days. It's going to be brilliant. And then like a light switch, it was like, no, what if we make it as short as we can? And we ended up getting that down to 90 minutes. It was the exact same with the software. I was like, right, we're going to have this feature and that feature, and we'll link to here, and we'll do this. When actually, I think there's a large appetite just for really easy to use, simple, straightforward software. Yes, there might be things that you can't do and you need to get more of an enterprise solution for, but we've gone the opposite. It's, can we engage more people in it? Can we have our software used without the need, for lots and lots of training? We offer companies a circa 1 hour onboarding session, and for most of them, that's enough for them to get going. So our software, we spend a lot of time trying to have as little in it as possible, features as easy to use as possible, and make it as easy to talk to other software. You know, like as an example, someone told me when I was starting out, it doesn't matter what software you've built. The most valuable feature is the export to Excel feature, you know, because everyone takes it to their own thing. So we've sort of taken that and like ran with it. So, you know, you can connect all our stuff to Power BI, dashboards, live links, other like documents. So we've tried to make it easy to connect our software, you know, to as many things. And yeah, that seems to resonate well with our customers. Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously we won't just talk about our own software the whole time, but can you just briefly describe Bowtie Master and SafeTask in a bit more detail before we kind of talk about our approach and building it and everything?
Yeah, so, you know, risk assessment, not the most exciting topic. You know, I would imagine that anyone that's got a large risk assessment in their calendar is certainly not the calendar appointment that they're the most, happy about. But ultimately, you know, that's one of the contributors to, you know, incidents, to loss of life, is that risks got missed in risk assessment because people weren't engaged. People were looking at this large table, that just listed out all the things that could go wrong and all the stuff that, you know, that we've got in place. So to try and lift that off the page, you know, there's this thing called bow tie diagrams, and, you know, named after the fashion accessory. And the idea is that it like brings that table to life. It really shows you the like role that each barrier plays for an individual threat or consequence. So it kind of reads left to right. All the stuff that can go wrong is on the left. The like top event, and that's when you lose control of the hazard, is in the center, and then all the unwanted consequences of that are on the right. And it's almost like a Rosetta Stone almost, you know, for any safety scenario, because anyone can understand it. You know, if someone explains to you in a few minutes what a bow tie diagram is, then any bow tie diagram will make sense. So it's, you know, it's a visual representation of risk. The other one is SafeTask, and that's looking at task analysis, really focusing on the role that human error plays. But, you know, writing human error as a like cause of an accident doesn't really tell you very much. If I was to say to you, like, you know, can you like write me the procedure for changing the electrical socket in your house? You know, you would know straight away that, you know, probably the two highest risk points of that are going to be when you've got to drive to B&Q to pick up your stuff. You know, is to put your seatbelt on, and when you're changing the socket, remember to turn the power off. I would hope that someone wouldn't need to tell you to like do those two things. But if you've got like a 200, 300, 500 step procedure offshore, working with really complex equipment, it might not be as obvious to everyone what the really crucial steps are. So what that does is that breaks down these complex tasks into like lots of subtasks. And then for the safety critical ones, you can really flag those, and you can put extra steps in, like cross-checking, hold point, extra info. So task analysis is a hugely difficult, hugely time-consuming process to undergo. I used to have to sit in the audience at these things when I was a system owner. You know, very difficult. So we've tried to make it as easy as we can, visual. You know, we were using Post-its on the wall and things like that. And when we like moved the like order of some subtasks, we had to like unstick 17 Post-its and then move them somewhere else. So it's about making that being done on the computer. So all of our software have got the exact same thing. It's like, you know, it's visual, there's drag and drop, it's easy to use, and it just allows more people to be engaged. And we've designed them in such a way, try to strike a balance between simplicity but configurability, because we know that different industries, different countries, there's different terminologies, different ways of working. So I think we've done okay. You know, we've tried to strike that balance that it can be used anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going back to your favorite example of the mom test, I think that was like so important in the creation of all of our software, because we were really trying to identify what issues people had, and in most of the cases it's too complex. So making everything as simple as possible to create and share and everything, I think, is our main goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've like read that book so many times and used the techniques that I'm out of control sometimes. I sometimes don't even know that I'm doing it. I'm talking about something else, and I'm like, you know, when we had the idea for Instant Insight, I'm just dropping some questions about instant investigation into conversations just to see what problems people have. So yeah, that's something that's hugely important, and it's not exactly the same as the course. If we'd built the 3 software products as I thought that they should have been built at the beginning, I don't think that would have 4, let alone 44 customers. So, you know, we really listen to what everyone says, both when we're planning, when we're building, and obviously when we're running these products.
Yeah, I think something that we always try to take an approach at as a company is people first. And that goes, with internally with our employees, but also externally with our software customers. So bringing them into it as much as possible, I think is one of the ways that we have software products that people really want to use, is because they were the ones who helped us build it. Really, like most of our features are suggestions that came from our users, and it's really kind of evolved into this product that's an amalgamation of everyone's suggestions and ideas.
Yeah, and we get that feedback sometimes when it's from someone who says we're not taking your software because it doesn't have X. But we've also had some of our customers who are so engaged in our software that they've sent like PowerPoint presentations with mock-ups of where they think the like buttons and stuff should go. And it's really simple business advice. Speak to your customers. Speak to your customers. Speak to your customers. But it's actually something that people forget to do. It can be very difficult to do. So when we get any feedback from prospective customers or paying customers, it's absolutely, it's absolutely great. If there was, if I could wave a magic wand and like sit over the shoulder of anyone using our software, I would do it every day. I would have like you speaking to customers every single day if I could, because you actually learn a whole lot more that when maybe they use features in the way that weren't intended, or they didn't know that some features were there. So, we've got multiple touch points with customers. We like call them, we email them, we run webinars and things like that. We've got some little bits in our software that like flags, like new features and stuff. And even then, despite all of that, there's still customers like, oh, I wish that I was able to like do X in the software. I'm like, but you can, and then we show them. But on your point about the ideas, yeah, I mean, probably our top 3-4 features were not my idea. We're not anyone in Salus' idea. They came from our customers of, something that's really frustrating me about your software is X, and then we work with them, to try and build something. It doesn't mean that you do everything. We've had some pretty wacky suggestions from customers, but there's a few follow-up questions that we can ask. Like, what problem would that help you solve? What are you currently like doing? And there's been some really good ideas, and I'm sure that's going to continue. And even some of the ideas for future products, not just features, have actually come from some customers as well. Wouldn't it be great if I could do this, if I could do that? So yeah, watch this space. Quite exciting.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think negative feedback is better than positive feedback in terms of getting to know how people are actually thinking, and they're telling you things that they're actually thinking, versus just like, oh yeah, I'm happy with the software, and then it turns out they actually had issues that they were sitting on that they didn't want to bring up. But I think we find that often if someone comes to us with an issue, maybe it was a bug they found in the software, not likely, but or whether it was just something that they didn't know how to do, I think when we go back and address that issue, they seem happier than if they didn't have an issue to begin with. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like, I think a lot of people probably wouldn't expect a company to even like do something, about a complaint like that, and we've obviously got a roadmap, but that's a very fluid roadmap, and very often we change the order of it based on feedback from our customers. I remember when I first, we first like scaled up the sales team, and we got some companies in industries that maybe we hadn't really much familiarity with saying, oh, we're not going to take the software because of it doesn't have these features, or we didn't quite like this bit. And then, they're like, somebody in my sales team, was pretty down about that. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, we've actually been told like what the issue is, and we can easily resolve that, and then lo and behold, a few months go by, we like get those features in, and then we go back to these people, and then, now they're using our software. So,
well, and that's so much better than them saying, yeah, I really like the software, and then just never answering you again. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I didn't like the software because of this. That's so much better.
Yeah,
in the
and
long run, isn't
it's
it?
exactly like we've spoken about earlier. You want to like race to get that negative feedback. Any feedback, but race to find out like why something's not worked. Make assumptions. I think this feature will be a good one, but validate those assumptions as quickly as possible. And you think in the material that we put out there, we do tens of software demos every month. We've got dozens of customers now that we speak to regularly. We're continually getting feedback. Sometimes it's things that we don't want to hear. There's some things that we've put in that we've been like really like proud of and think are great, and we hear that they're not so great. But that's amazing getting that feedback. So if I could sit down and have a long conversation with every single customer, if I could watch them use our software, they'd probably be fed up of me being there. But I would choose to do that every single day if I could, because we would learn so much.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like you have to remember that it's just a person on the other end of the line, like answering your inquiries for the most part. So it's just, me or someone else on our team answering customer support requests. But as a consumer, like I would never think that I could just email a software company and be like, can you put this feature in for me? But apparently you can. So it's, yeah.
But it's like you say that, it's people on the other end. Yeah, fine. We're a like B2B business to business company rather than B2C business to consumer. But, I think that's probably a distinction that's over-egged, most of the companies that use our software, there is one individual or a group of individuals that are like the power users, the super users, the people that we speak to all the time, and they're people. And we build up a relationship with them. And I sometimes feel that we are more B2C because when those people get up and leave the company, and their new company, they often call us up and say, "Oh, can we, start using your software here?" And equally, we've got the opposite issue of, we have to make sure that the people that replace them really understand the value of our product. And, it seems like most safety professionals seem to change job every 18 months or so. So, that's a huge battle that we've got. So, yeah, it's very much the people in Salus talking to the people in our in the companies that use our software, and I think once that penny dropped, that unlocked a lot of value for us.
Yeah, we're not just talking to these big faceless organizations and teaching them how to use our software. It's individuals, and we're on a first name basis with them. And most of the time, we refer to our customers just by their first name rather than their company because we just get to know them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's actually such a good point that and especially like our early ones, sometimes I have to like remind myself, which company are we talking about? I know the exact person, I know the exact issues that they've had or the things that they like, but I'm thinking, which company are like they, which I think's probably a good place to be in.
Yeah. And going back to what you said about like making sure that head user kind of knows exactly what they're doing. I think it's so important, as we always talk about, is onboarding. Like the first couple weeks of somebody's subscription to our software, it's a yearly subscription, but the first couple of weeks and even days and even before they sign the agreement or whatever, those are the most like indicative of if they're going to resubscribe for the next year and overall just if they're happy with the software in general. It's really how they started to use it in the first place and if they can get the most out of the software from those early onboarding days. Yeah,
a common theme is read a lot of books, but I read a lot of books about obviously building and selling software, and one of the most surprising things I had was like that onboarding period. You could have someone on like a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year subscription, and literally the first month of them using your software like dictates the like tone for the rest of their term and how likely they are to resubscribe. And if you think the customer buy-in journey is that they've like got a problem and they find your software, whether it be like on your like website or on socials, so you've got to gear your stuff up to like be found. But our websites for our software, each product's got its own site, and that's that means a bit more work for us, but that means that we can really put the product front and center on each one. And we show people the value of the product on our site during like demos and trials. We like let them experience the value. But once the company's decided to like take the software, we've got to make sure that the organization gets the value from the software. So that means, making sure that the power users, know all the features that are like of value to them. And it's not the same in every company. We've got the same product that everyone gets, but it's used in an entirely different way. So that's for like us, that's for people like you to make sure that you really understand what problems is our products solving for them, and make sure that they know how to do that. And sometimes that can be, take like Bowtie Master, for example. In some industries, the use of bowtie diagrams are well established. No one needs us to like tell them what a bow tie is or how to use it. It's all about what are the like different buttons in the software. But other industries, it's the opposite. It's actually like, bow ties are this brand new thing. So we might spend more time actually on the bow tie methodology than actually on the software. So that's for us to like figure out. And, probably the worst thing that can happen is we've had customers that have, taken our product and not really used it that often. And that's, a sign that, we've maybe not done the best job of onboarding them. So yeah, it's a huge thing that, first few weeks, first few months are so important. But we've got a really robust onboarding process, I'd like to say. And yeah, a lot of our users are using our software every day or every week, certainly. And that's a really good sign, I'd say, that, you've done quite well on the onboarding side.
And sometimes you log into an onboarding session, it's 25 people with their cameras off and they don't have any questions. And you're like, wow, well, I really hope they know how to use the software. And I hope they got a lot from that. But then other times you just have people who can't stop asking questions, which is a great thing. And neither is worse than the other or better than the other, but just being able to customize and tailor the onboarding experience to every customer is really important.
Yeah, and people say selling software is easy. Absolutely isn't. And, it's good in a way that, it's good in lots of ways that we've got such a wide variety of, companies using our product, their size, their industry. But equally, that means that, we could do the same onboarding session to 10 different companies and do it 11 different ways, So that's for us to make sure that our job of onboarding is to make sure that all the users know enough that they can, get the value from the product. And no two onboarding sessions are ever the same. And it's exactly the same in the sales demos that we do. We don't go into those demos that people book with we've got half an hour to sell them the software. We go in it, we've got half an hour to find out what their problems are and then show them how our software can solve their problems. And as soon as we sort of shifted our mindset there, that's something, that really helped to improve. And it's exactly the same with onboarding. It's we've got to leave that the people have got the knowledge of the product that they can now start to use it. And as you say, sometimes you get no question, literally no questions asked. Sometimes you go massively over the time allocated because all you've done is answer questions the whole time. And that doesn't mean that one of them is good and one of them is bad. It's just, different company types, different cultures, so yeah, it's a challenge, but it's your problem to solve.
And when you say that some people say that selling software is easy, was that you? Was that why you decided to to go into it originally and you quickly learned?
Yeah, I thought software would be the easiest business unit. It's quite the opposite. Designing, building, selling, maintaining, a suite of software products isn't just one. We've got 4 different pieces of software. It's really difficult. But if you just speak to your customers all the time, more often than probably anyone's comfortable with, it was something I wasn't comfortable with. I'd never sold anything before I started Salvage. The last thing I would have sold was when I worked in Halfords when I was in high school. So hugely uncomfortable. But you found that the more often the more touch points you've got, the more that you learn about the people that you're speaking to, then you'll get there. But it's hugely challenging, and and even as you grow, some things that weren't a challenge before become a challenge. So for example, one thing that that we've discussed, we've got low churn with our software, and churn is that's the most difficult challenge, but we seem to have cracked that. And what that means is most people who take a year subscription will take year 2 and take year 3. And if you've got that, under 10%, which we've got, then that's excellent, But as you continue to grow, 10% becomes quite a lot, and suddenly it might be 1 or 2 companies per quarter start to drop off, but that might become tens of companies per quarter as you grow. So suddenly you're, you have to sell a whole bunch of new software just to counteract the users that are leaving. So every single software product's got this, and you probably get to a critical size where you can't add enough new customers, to replace the old ones. So, and as we continue to grow, that's likely going to become a bigger challenge for us. So it's about making sure that we learn even more about our customers, have even more stickier features that mean that when a company starts to use your product, it'd be very difficult for them, or maybe not very difficult, but they wouldn't want to, move to something else. So I feel like it's just lots of small phases, and when you go from one phase to the next phase, you've suddenly got a whole different suite of challenges.
Yeah, I know we're looking ahead. Obviously, we have 45 customers now. We want to get to 450. But when you look back, I started a year ago, and when I look back about how much we've grown just since then, Like, it's pretty incredible. So as you mentioned, our workforce has more than doubled. When I first started, our software development was outsourced, but now we have a full team of software developers internally, and that is like, so valuable for the company. And we're working on new software products every day. Do you want to talk a bit about how much we've grown and plans for the future?
And again, this talks about, different business advice. Half the people I spoke to said, "Oh, no, don't outsource it," and half the people said, "Oh yeah, that's definitely the way to go." And I think I always planned we'll outsource it to begin with until we can justify, bringing it in. But my goodness, that completely transformed everything. My own mindset went from, is it worth paying to get that extra feature, where now you've got a team of software developers, and really it's just, what's the order in which we should be doing this? And that, so that's been awesome. We speak to, the conversations between our sales team, our customer team, our software team. There's just that, 2 + 2 = 5. You just get so much more out of that too. And, I even had a few months ago that one of our software developers made a feature and put it on the test site for us to have a look at based on a conversation that, a few of us were having, and you just wouldn't get that, if it was outsourced. So, that's been a huge lever for growth. I wish I'd done it, probably 2 years before I did. And
I think the value of having software developers embedded in your team, and also even talking to your customers on a regular basis, can't be overstated, because, like you said, they can just kind of take your ideas and run with it, or they might have ideas of their own based off things they've seen or ways they've seen the customers use the software and things like that.
Yeah, and that goes back to the commander's intent thing. I said to you earlier, there's some features that I'm very clear, this is what we do. I want the button here, I want it to do this, but there's also other things where I'm like, look, these are the problems that the customers are having. I don't actually know the best way to execute it. I've got some ideas, but it's for you guys to give me some feedback. I want it to work with the philosophy of our software. I want it to feel similar to other features. And quite often when I ask that, I get way better ideas than I would have thought of. Not always, and sometimes I just say, no, we're going to do it the way that I thought. But yeah, so I find it's much more collaborative, and I feel that we're all pulling in the same direction. We all celebrate new customers. We all commiserate when we lose a customer. I feel like we're all in it together. And for me, doing that plus speaking to our customers every single day, I think we'll be just fine.